we will go on to a new topic called cloning. You might be surprised seeing a picture over there which has nothing to do with Java. As many of you might be knowing, this is a sheep called Dolly, a sheep called Dolly. In fact, she is the first Dolly, D-O-L-L-Y. This sheep, her name is Dolly. She was the first adult clone to be cloned from a cell. Okay, and this is the person behind it. His name is Ian Wilmot. It was done in Scotland. It was in news long back. Late 90s, Dolly and her creators were in news. Dolly did not have a biological father or mother. It was created with the help of 3 cells. An embryo from one sheep was taken, the DNA from another sheep was taken, and then, you know, all these mathematical, biological things were done. And then the embryo was placed in a 3rd sheep, and then she was born. She had no biological father and mother, but still, with the help of cloning, Dolly was created. Anyway, Dolly is no more. She had lung cancer and she passed away when she was 6 years old. So that is what is meant by cloning. Now, let us see, what do you mean by object cloning in Java? Okay, now you can see a picture over there. Amarnath, tell me which film is that?
Yendiran.
Oh, yeah, Amarnath is so updated. Yendiran. Okay, hope you are able to get an understanding about what is a clone. Clone means nothing but an exact copy. You will have an exact copy of something, you call it a clone. Now, just as you have human clones, animal clones, you can even have something called an object clone. Objects can also be cloned. You can make an exact copy of an object. Now, to do that, we will be using a method called clone, C-L-O-N-E. This is a method. And this is also a keyword called object. Okay, you are making an object clone. So you will be using the class called object and the method called clone. As I've written over there, object cloning means you need not write code again and again. You can copy things. Now, cloning, there are 2 methods of cloning. One is called shallow cloning and one is called deep cloning. Now, be it shallow cloning or deep cloning, you will have an original object and a clone, original and a replica, both in shallow and deep. In shallow cloning, both of them will point to the same referenced object. That is what is meant by shallow cloning. In deep cloning, they will not point to the same referenced object. One will point to the referenced object and the other will point to the referenced clone. Now, we need to learn only about shallow cloning. We will see that with the help of an example. Okay, I'll have a class called clone test. Clone test. Okay, so this will be my program name. And I will have a class called, let's say, simply test. Now, I will be creating an object of test. Let's say I'm creating an object test. T1 is equal to new test. Okay, I am creating an object T1 of new test. And let's say test will have 2 variables, int a, b. Now, I will even give values for that. Let's say t1.a is equal to 10 and t2.a is equal to 20. Now, things are very clear. I can display my t1 and t2, t1.a and, sorry, t1.b. t1.b. Okay, I will display my t1.a is equal to plus t1 dot a plus t1 dot b is equal to plus t1 dot b. Hope till here things are very fine. Okay, I'm not doing any rocket science over here. I just have a test which has two variables, int a comma b. I am creating an object and I'm assigning two values. Because it is int, I am simply assigning t1 is equal to t1 dot a is equal to 10 and t1 dot b is equal to 20, and I am displaying both the values. Now what I am planning to do is I am planning to create an other object called t2. I am planning to create another object dot t2, and usually when I need to do it, I will have to do all this. I will have to do test t2 is equal to new test, and then I will have to again assign values. T2 dot a is equal to t2 dot a is equal to 10 and t2 dot b is equal to 20. This is what I usually need to do in the normal case. And then here, instead of this, control C, I will be giving a control V, and I will be displaying t2 dot a, t2 dot a, t2 dot b, t2 dot b. This is the normal case when I do not have cloning. Are you able to understand me, Selin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the normal case. But now I am not planning to do all of this. I am planning to create a clone of T1 called T2. So all what I need to do is I need to write over here T2 is equal to T1 dot clone. Clone is a method. T1 dot clone. And the clone which I create should be of type test. Of type test. So I write over here, this is casting. I'm doing my typecasting over here. Okay. So here what I do is I create a clone. I create a clone and typecast it. Typecast it. Okay. So this is what is meant by cloning. Now you need not give t2 dot a is equal to t2 dot b is equal to. Automatically t2 dot a will be 10. Automatically t2 dot b will be 20, because it is a clone happening. Now this code alone will not do for cloning. Now before we go into the detailed code of cloning, whenever you do cloning, there is a chance that your main will throw up an exception. Okay, so you will have to throw details about throw and throws. We will see it later. As of now, have the code throws, and the exception which is thrown up will be clone. It is directly coming up over here. Clone not supported exception in case the clone is not supported. Okay, so as a precaution, what we do is we write over here throws clone not supported exception, just in case the clone is not supported. Okay, now till here is it fine? Selin, till here is it fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now you are calling an object called, you are calling a method called clone. Now you are calling a method called clone for the test class. So inside the test class, you should detail the function for clone. Now, as I told you, object, class object, and then clone. Okay, clone is the method, object is the class. You will have to write the code for the clone. Very simple. Return a clone, return a clone, return a clone to the parent class. The parent is nothing but my main. So I return super.clone, which means when I call this method, a clone of test is created and it comes over here. When I call this method is called. This method is called. This method does nothing. It simply returns a clone to my main function. Okay. Now, whenever you're doing clone, there is a chance that exceptions are thrown, just like you do your input. So have it in a try catch. have this in a try catch. The exception which you will throw in clones are the same thing. This is the only exception which can happen. Okay. Clone not supported exception, E, and then you can have an SOP. System dot out dot println. You can have simply a message called error. Okay, which means, you know, a clone cannot be created. Just in case an exception is thrown, the only exception which comes over here is a clone cannot be created. If a clone can be created, you return the clone over here. If the clone is not created, you will be throwing up this exception. In case the clone is not created, return the original class itself. Return the class. Okay. We'll continue from here. I've got T1 dot A is equal to 10 and T1 dot B is equal to 20. I created a clone called T2. I did not assign values for T2 dot A and T2 dot B. All what I did is I created a clone for T1 and I called it T2. Automatically, T2 dot A took the value of T1 dot A. Automatically, T2 dot B took the value of T1 dot B because T2 is a clone of T1. Whatever are the data members in T1, the same will be the data members in T2 because T2 is a clone of T1. Are you able to get me, Felin?
Yes,
Can I
ma'am.
move forward? Can I move forward? Can I take my program?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now I've taken my program. The error I had is I didn't have the statement over here. T2, I did not tell which object T2. Which class is T2? T2 object is of class test. And I am creating the clone of T1. Creating a clone of T1 and typecasting it to class test. Okay, this is what I have done over here. And here I am the method clone of class object. These are default things. Okay, clone is a keyword, object is also a keyword. Clone is a keyword. Clone is a keyword. Object is also a keyword in Java. Okay, OBJ, capital OBJ is actually a class, not an object. Okay, get the difference. OBJECT is a class. Okay, now I'll explain my program once again. I've got a class called test, which has two variables A and B. Till here, what I have done is I have assigned values to the data variables A and B. I am planning to create a clone. Called T2 of type test, which is exactly the replica of T1. So I write test T2 is equal to T1.clone. I'm even typecasting it so that, you know, the same A's and B's are taken in. And then I am displaying both T1.A, T1.B, T2.A and T2.B. Okay, I have not assigned values to T2.A and T2.B. Hope you're very clear. I have not assigned values to T2.A and T2.B because T2 is the clone of T1. T2 is the replica of T1. Automatically, these values are taken into T2.A and T2.B. Okay. In my test class, I will have a method called clone. I will have a method called clone to return the clone. This is also a keyword. To return the clone. To return the clone to the main. Okay. The only exception which you will get is clone not supported exception. That's it. You need to have that in your main, and even you need to have that in your try catch. In your try catch. This is how you do cloning of an object. You are not cloning a class. You are cloning the object. Okay, I am creating a clone of object T1. That is why you call it object cloning. You call it object cloning. You call it object cloning. I have an object called T1 and I am creating a clone of T1 called T2. Is it very clear, Selin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now have a question for the afternoon. For the class employee, which has employee name, employee number, and employee age. Okay. For the class called employee, okay, instead of int a comma b, you'll have even a c over here. One will be a string. Okay. For the class employee, which has age, number, and name, age, number, and name, create a clone. Create an object clone. Create an object clone. Create an object clone. Okay. So you can have test T1, T1 dot age is equal to, T1 dot age is equal to, T1 dot name is equal to, T1 dot number is equal to, and create a clone of another employee. Let's say I have one employee called Selin. Okay. I will even have another employee called, let's say Selin has a sister. Selin has a sister. Selin's and Selin's sister's data will be the same. Are you able to understand me, Selin? Because we are creating a clone. Selin's sister cannot have a different name, different number, and different age. Are you able to get me? Because we are creating a clone. Okay. So both Selin and Selin's sister, all the details will be the same. Both of you will have same name. Just like Amarnath told, no, in that slide we had many Rajnikants. Same height, same weight, same name Rajnikant. Okay. So Selin and Selin's sister will have the same age, same number, and same name.